So I think for the Valkyries, it's like, how can we establish who we are right now from the very, very beginning so that we can get to that goal of having a championship within 5 years? And I just think that these little signature wins that I like to call where you're showing shades of your identity matter so much. And I think people will, they'll overlook them because, it's regular season, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is, if you're a brand new team, brand new coaching staff, everybody's new. The whole front office is new. Like, everybody is new. And what they've told me in my conversations with some of the folks from the front office is like, we have this insatiable hunger to continue pushing, right? Like, they're stopping to celebrate, but they're gone. They're on to the next thing. And I think that shows up in the players, right? Like, the players celebrated that Aces win, but then they were right back at it with the Sparks. And when they got themselves into trouble against the Sparks, right, they had this terrible, like, end of the first half, right? And it just, it's like, it's going to be one of those games, isn't it? Right. And then they like it. Yeah. Right. They proved me wrong. I would say that I think I tweeted about that of like, I put you guys in my power rankings, a little higher up in the power rankings. And now you've heard me talking good about you. You just disappointed me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. But it always happens. It always happens. You write your power rankings and then like somebody inevitably is like, oh no, we need to prove them wrong.
Exactly.
But no, to that point though, they gritted out that win. You get this late second basket that ties it up. You go into overtime. You outscore the Sparks 11-3 in overtime. And Kayla Thornton hits this ridiculous like dagger three that I was like, that's Valkyries basketball right there. I mean, exactly. It's gutsy. And I think that's what it is for them. Like they're in an area that is rich in basketball culture. And you've got to be able to kind of fit already within that in a place that is dripping in basketball culture. So they are slowly building that. And I think fans showing up, 18,000 plus fans for every home game you've had, like that's fantastic for the Valkyries to build upon. And they are giving their fans like a really good show in their first season.
And for KT, that was on the heels of missing her first 6 attempts. And, this is a team that gets up a lot of threes. But one thing I asked Natalie about was, how you kind of balance that out. And she said, like, she talked about their offensive rebounding as well. They're kind of doing a version of Missoula ball where they get up a lot of threes, but they know that they're going to be, there's going to be a lot of long misses. And they have these really agile forwards who can get those long misses as well. And they're always going to be confident in their players. Natalie told her and the team told her, look, we need you, right? Like, we need you to win this game. And lo and behold, she kind of hits that three. And there is that sort of like that building self-belief that you're starting to see with them. And it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I'm curious about like when you bring up the playoffs, because that's honestly like not even somewhere where I was willing to go with the Valkyries. And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they do have, you have Eurobasket coming up.
Yeah.
So you do have a lot of players that, especially for the Valkyries, they're going to have this interesting balance where they want to be the international team, right? But that also means being willing to cater to the needs of their international players. In the WNBA season, it happens during the summer. So they're likely going to always be dealing with like this situation where a lot of their players are going to be taking off in the middle of the regular season to go and play international basketball. So they're going to have Julie Van Loo, Janelle Salon, Temi Fagbenle, Chechi Zandalicini is already gone.
Yeah.
And I asked Natalie about this, and she gave me the most Natalie answer. She was just like, well, we're prepared. We love grinding tape. She's like, it just reminds me of the expansion draft again. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, why am I not surprised at all? But they brought in Letitia Mihir. They brought her back after she was a training camp cut that a lot of people were confused about, rightfully so, given how great she was in the preseason. But it really got me thinking about like how much they just know what they want to do, because when you look at the things that Mihir is able to do, it fits so well with what they're going to be losing temporarily as far as rolling fast. I feel like all of their bigs roll really fast, and they always have multiple ball handlers on the court. Like there's a point where they had Kate Martin, Van Loo, Carla Late, who's going to be getting a ton more reps too with all these players leaving. Janelle Salon, who's like, kind of a forward, but she is a ball handler. And God, was she fantastic against the Sparks. All on the floor with Monique Billings. And they're just spamming pick and roll. They're spamming these dribble handoffs over and over again. They use Salon as a roller and as a ball handler. And eventually, when you just have players like that on the court and you keep running that action, and you have multiple ball handlers who are great passers, you're going to get the ball down low. And I feel like Letitia and me here is going to fit perfectly into that. And it was like, I look back at it now and I'm like, I almost wonder if this was like planned, if this was like preordained, like we're going to cut me here right now. We're going to try Linskins. We're going to see what she can do. But we know that Eurobasket is coming up and we're going to need somebody like her at some point. Because it did feel like she even spoke to like it was a great experience for her and it was a great experience for them, which at the time made it really confusing that they cut her. But now it's like I'm like, okay, this is all sort of coming together for me now.
I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, they still probably should have kept her.
yeah. That's kind of where I was going. I was like, I still was like, you cut her? Like what?
Yeah.
And I think it's mostly because you saw what she brought to the team, right? Yeah. She was knocking it down from long range. She was getting into the paint, blocking basketballs, cutting off lanes, those sorts of things. Like all the things that you saw her, I mean, maybe not many people knew, but she played off-season basketball to help her get better because she lacked, I think, some of those skills to kind of put it all together. And maybe I'm not saying this correctly, but basically what I'm saying is that she put together a lot of the skills that she already had, improved upon them, and then added them to this complete package, like where she was lacking. That's kind of what I was saying. There we go. Where she was lacking, right? And so I think for her, like, she didn't get the most that out of probably what she wanted out of her time in Atlanta. She goes and plays off-season basketball. She gets better, right? And then she comes in firing from all cylinders with the Valkyries, and she looks like a hand in glove fit. Like that is, to me, that is a painful cut right there because it's like, oh, she was great. She was fantastic. She was like the highest scorer in one of the preseason games, and I was like, I'm so lost here. But to that point, like I think the Valkyries are very smart in knowing that like their team is going to be filled with international talent. And you look at, for example, I'm just throwing this out here, but like New York Liberty is another another team who I think about with like stashing their international talent. And then they just pull them out of like, off the shelf, like it was the plan the whole time. But like Leonie Fiebig is an example, right? Maureen Johannes, they brought her back, whatnot. Like Maureen is still terrorizing people on one leg. And it's just like, New York knows what she brings. So it's like, yeah, hey, you're coming back. We want you back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and to the Valkyries' credit, I think they probably have the most international players on any roster in the W. I might be undershining a little bit, but I think again, like you said, they're probably prepared for these sorts of things. But also, like this is the W, and I don't mean this really, but like no one's gonna feel sorry for you that you have players like playing in Eurobasket, right? Like it's all about
it's your plan, right?
Yeah, like obviously it's for the front office to plan for, right? But also this is where you get challenged, right? This middle of the season, this grit, this grind, this is where you find what you believe are going to be your playoff teams and what team is going to potentially be your champion, right? This is really where it makes sense. So if like I mentioned, I brought it up, like I'm just throwing this out here, but like if the Valkyries are able to survive this 3 to 4 week period without some of, their top players here and still come out, let's say, close to 500 or even above 500, you're now cooking. Yeah. You've now exceeded the expectations for your first season at this point, and making the playoffs is probably just the cherry on top. Maybe that's the expectation from day one. Listen, they're probably never going to say that because for them, it's like, hey, we are where we are. We're just trying to build. But listen, playoffs is definitely probably at least way back in the file cabinet. But it's
thinking about it. Like knowing what we know about like the people in charge of that roster, they're probably thinking about it.
It's got to be, right? Like if you want a championship within 5 years, at least at minimum, it's like, yeah, we at least need to make playoffs next couple of years, second round, win a series, whatever. Like you got to get progressive there. So I'm saying all that to say that I think the Valkyries will be fine. But I am very curious to see how they weather the storm.
Yeah. And it's also when you kind of implement a system like this, and you also have like even bringing it back to Veronica Burton, who have players who are able to kind of discover new elements to their game. Like this was somebody who was kind of more of a table setter for Connecticut, where everything kind of organized itself around Alyssa Thomas. Now she's the one making these incredible pick and roll reads. Like she's the one having these 12 assists, 0 turnover performances, right? When you can show other players that that's what your developmental chops are, that's kind of like the production that you're going to be able to get out of them. It also lets you go into the off season with a great free agency pitch, and they weren't able to pull it off this year. I think it's something that they wanted to make a big splash. They weren't able to, but now let's say, you're going into 2026, which is just, I mean, everybody is a free agent. It doesn't mean everybody's going to leave, but maybe you can go to a player like, let's say, a Nneka Ogwumike and say, hey, like, you really fit our skill set. You are somebody who is, has roots in the area. We are serious. We're a serious franchise. I think that was probably an important thing for them to get across in their first year. And, you can make a real pitch. You can make a pitch at, let's say somebody who is a little bit frustrated these days, who is who was a potential Valkyries target in 2025, a guard who wanted to scale up her game and is also a great playmaker, who has a history with Natalie Nikasi in Kelsey Plum.
I knew where you were going.
Yeah.
I mean, right. Like I think to this point, yes, if they build on this season, right, it makes that free agency pitch that much easier. And that was the biggest issue, is that, like, yeah, they had plenty of money. That was not an issue, right? You got plenty of cash. The issue was we can't give up our draft picks because we're brand new, right? And we don't have a whole lot to offer because we haven't won anything. We're brand new. I mean, you're basically selling vibes at that point, right?
Yeah.
Vibes and a dream and a culture. Like, you're selling the culture and those sort of things. And those things are nice and they probably feel good, but players are thinking
They're
about
pretty amorphous until you actually see them,
Right. Well, and so what I'm thinking is that, like, players are actually saying, hey, I want to win now. I want to win within, a year or two, those sorts of things, right? Like, that's the thing. When you're trying to land a big, free agent splash, you've got to sell them on that. And if you can't, like, yeah, they're going to walk. I think for just speaking in, like, Kelsey Plum, like, it was like, hey, I wanted to go somewhere where I can be the person, right? This is Kelsey Plum's team, so to speak, right? She's the floor general there. LA is like, we're in win now mode, right? We want to win now. Absolutely. We've got plans for a practice facility. We've got all these other things, right? And she felt loved and respected and that sort of thing. And I'm not saying that Golden State probably didn't roll out the same thing, but what I am saying is there's probably, there's pieces at LA, right? There's a Cameron Brink, there's a De'Erica Hamby, there's an Azare Stevens, there's a Ray Burrell. Like, there are folks in that lineup, right? And so that's the draw there. So if Golden State can put together, again, a season that is admirable in that aspect, yeah, you can say we have a Timmy Fagbinley, we have a Kate Martin, we have a Veronica Burton, we have a Kayla Thornton, right? That's the way that you build that sort of belief in those players and have other players say, yeah, I want to join that.
Yeah, and you have a Janelle Salon who could potentially be a face of the franchise down the line. Just like, she is just such an incredibly talented player, and I'm super hyped to see where she's going to be within the course of a year. The LA Sparks are 3-7 after falling to Golden State Valkyries, which is like kind of the irony of all of this, right? Not a great game for them. So Kelsey Plum was pretty frustrated after that game. You wrote about this For the Win, but there were a lot of expletives thrown around. She is sick of the referees. She says she drives more than anybody else in the league, which she does. She has scratches all over her body, which she does. And she's not getting enough free throws, which I agree with her. I don't think she's getting enough free throws at all. I also think it speaks to what is a movie that early on I've been watching a lot with the LA Sparks, which is Kelsey Plum being asked to do way, way, way too much, especially in the fourth quarter and in crunch time of these games. She has scored more points than anybody else in the WNBA. She has played more minutes than anybody else in the WNBA. De'Erica Hamby is second on the minutes list early this season. They definitely need Cameron Brink back at this point. Beyond that, they need some depth. They need a third scorer. They need more playmaking. They need a lot of things that, frankly, I don't think Cameron Brink is going to be the answer to all of those questions. And I think that they just, what I watched against I was at the game last night. Oh, by the way, I'll add that Plum also, I heard from another reporter, because I was in the Valkyries press conference after that game, that she also afterwards had a little chat with the referees outside of their locker room as well. Just a spirited discussion. And again, I don't blame her for any of that. Like, I think refereeing is a larger conversation that needs to be had around the league, like the quality of reffing, especially of guards. Like I saw some of those drives. She was absolutely fouled. She was probably fouled on that last play that could have been free throws, definitely, especially she talks about ticky-tack calls on the other end of the floor. Janelle Salon getting to the line on, what was, if they weren't in bonus, that would have been a, on the sideline foul against Rickea Jackson, who I thought was playing pretty good defense. Janelle was just kind of getting up into her body. Again, like just at the end of the game, maybe you don't call that. So she is totally valid in the points that she's making. She also has the highest fourth quarter usage in the entire WNBA. And that to me is a controllable Sparks related issue for a roster that still needs to figure out how to integrate Rickea Jackson, a roster that, as much as they do use Dearica Hamby, just stops using her in the fourth quarter. And it kind of does become the Kelsey Plum show. And she is an incredibly well-conditioned athlete who is doing a lot of stuff, and it is only natural that by the time the game is coming to an end, especially if you have to go all the way into overtime, that she would run out of juice, which is what happened in this game and has just happened for the Sparks throughout the course of the season early on. Like it just, again, like it's kind of like that don't hit the panic meter, especially for a team that does have so many players coming back from injury. They also have a first-year coach, but I'm getting sick of this movie. I'm just getting a little sick of this movie. That's all.
Nothing major. I wrote about this a couple weeks ago, same sort of effect. I had Kelsey Plum on my like way too early or sort of like under the radar MVP candidates who you probably want to pay attention to, right? This is like early, but I noticed it very early on that yes, the Sparks were heavily depending on Kelsey Plum. And I posed the question of how long can she reasonably keep this up, right? That's been the question and the issue.
Which is a fantastic tension to watch, by the way. Like it's riveting, but it's not endemic to winning basketball.
To that point is you watch Kelsey get the ball, you watch Kelsey look for people to pass it to. She can't find one, so she's just taking it upon herself to drive or again to shoot a perimeter shot, those sorts of things. And I think for the Sparks, like, do you see these stretches where they feel like they know each other out there on the court? It's like, okay, all right, like we got something. And then you see these just brutal meltdowns. You see the lapse in defense. You see the poor shot selection, the dependence on the outside shot, dependence on Kelsey. And I'm like, okay, like I know Ray Burrell is out, but you've got Dearica Hamby, you have Azurá Stevens who can both get into the paint very, very well. Kelsey can as well because she's quick too, but like you have other options that can get there. And I know Rickea Jackson is just coming back, but like Rickea is a bucket by herself. And so if you're looking for additional scores, like in my opinion, you're looking for your third scorer, that's your third scorer right there. And you've got to get her going because when you get Rickea Jackson going, there's not a whole lot of folks who are going to stop that. Let me say that. In terms of she is nearly automatic in the mid game. She's got this like beautiful turnaround fader jump shot, this signature kick out leg, jump shot. And if she could bring her three game as well, that was one of the things that she did well as a rookie, right? She actually shot really well towards the back half of the season from three. She can bring that back out. That's when you know that the Sparks have finally found something, aka a spark. I'll show myself out. But finding that extra person who's going to help, because if Cam's not coming back anytime soon, because you're not sure when Cam will come back. And Ray won't be back for another couple of weeks. Like, what are you going to do, Sparks? And you can't keep having these meltdowns because the competition only gets stiffer from there, right? And I'll give you a perfect example. This was a couple weeks ago now, but they played the Aces as well. I mean, that was like a track meet from beginning, and the Sparks were not in it. Like they were just not in it. They were behind the whole time, playing catch up, trying to get there, to where they needed to be. And unfortunately, it feels like that's where they've been in a lot of these games. And I think if you're a Sparks fan and you're watching this has to be like gut wrenching to watch like every single game, or what feels like every single game, getting your hopes up. Okay, the team's playing well, shots are falling, those sorts of things. And then just watching these kind of crash and burns, so to speak. It's brutal. Let me say that it's brutal to watch. And I feel for the players because obviously I'm not there. I'm not in the gym with them. I'm not behind the scenes, those sorts of things. But what I will say is that like I think Kelsey Plum's rant about the officiating was not just about the officiating. It was more so, in my opinion, the undertones were like, I am doing a lot. I'm not getting the help that I need, whether that's from the referees or from other places, so that I don't have to do all this driving. And, you know, and she kind of brought it up like, hey, Rakia's getting called, you know, she's getting drives too, and she's not getting the calls, blah, 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 blah. But to me, all that said was, I'm saying this after a loss. I'm frustrated. The loss just happened. I'm not getting calls here. And then we are not executing the way I would like us to as an offense. And so that to me says, okay, Sparks, you've got to reset yourself some, you know, in some sort of capacity. And here's the other thing. If you've got to go to the end of your bench, go to the end of your bench. Like, I say that in the sense of, there are a lot of teams who probably won't get past 9 or 10. But there are some nights where you might get to 11. You might get, you know, to 12 and on the teams that carry 12, if that's what it calls for, right? Like, I just watched a Mystics game the other day where they dropped 100 plus on Connecticut and 10 out of 11 Mystics scored. That is a lot of ball movement, and that's a lot of buckets had. And again, if a game calls for it, you can do that. And so I think that could be an option too for the Sparks if they realize, okay, hey, we've got to go to, you know, a Sanaya Fagan, you know, in a pinch, or we got to go to a Liatu King in a pinch, whatever it is, they're going to have to figure it out, because this slid that they're in is just, it's one of those, it doesn't, to your point, when we talked about earlier, doesn't align with what the franchise is talking about of their expectations. And starting off the season like this is just not, you know, not ideal.